Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss on a topic understanding the Indian knowledge system through a historical perspective. Before starting my topic, I would like to give my introduction. I am Dr. Liky Deka, Assistant Professor in the Department of History, Dispur College. So let us start with our session today. So before starting here, if we look at our first slide, it states what is the Indian knowledge system. So since it is one of the most discussed topics in today's world, Indian knowledge system, we need to know what basically the Indian knowledge system means and how the word knowledge influences our understanding of this particular topic. So Indian knowledge system, when we refer to it, it refers to a body of knowledges, practices and beliefs that developed and passed on through generations in India. That means the Indian knowledge system, we can say that this word has been derived from the word, directly from the word knowledge, where knowledge means to seek, to understand something or to know or gather information about something. So when we talk about the knowledge, here we are understanding knowledge from an Indian perspective. That means we are understanding or we are enhancing knowledge from the Indian subcontinent. So the next thing was this system has been shaped by the interplay of various civilization, cultures and religious traditions that have flourished in the Indian subcontinent. So when we are talking about the knowledge system, here we are not talking only about education. We are trying to include all the other aspects of knowledge, which may be the various kinds of civilization that have happened in our country, the cultures that have flourished in our country, the religions that has been present in our country, and every other aspect of knowledge. So here is a basic diagram of the Indian knowledge system, where we can see that Indian knowledge system has introduced, it is a combination of various aspects of our life, like it is a combination of knowledge of this astronomy, then education, yoga, then games, food, our architecture. So when we talk about Indian knowledge system, we can say it is a combination of gathering of knowledge of every types of things that happen in our country. So since I am a history teacher, we are going to look at the Indian knowledge system from a historical background. So let us see. The history of the Indian knowledge system is rooted in ancient texts like the Vedas and the Upanishads, evolving through various civilizations and encompassing philosophy, religion, science, mathematics, medicine, and more, with a focus on holistic understanding and self-realization. So this is actually an explanation of my previous slide, where I have already talked about that Indian knowledge system is a combination of all the other aspects that we study or we go through. So I'm not going in details with this slide, just it is an overview of what I have already shown in my previous slide. So first of all, how do we talk about Indian knowledge system? When we are talking about Indian knowledge system, when we are focusing it on the ancient period of India, we see that during the ancient period, the knowledge that we acquired, it comes from the Vedas. Where we are talk about the 4 Vedas, which were the primary, or we can say these were the primary objectives of learning during that period of time. Here the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda and Atharva Veda. Apart from the Vedas, we have the Vedangas, which include the Siksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Chandas, Niruttam and Jyotisha. Similarly, we have an Itihasa Purana tradition, which composed of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, including the Vishnu Purana and Bhagavata Purana, etc. Similarly, we have other religious texts like the Dharma Shastras, which includes Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti and few others. Like we have another school of Darshana, which is associated with philosophy. We have 6 orthodox and 6 heterodox Darshana philosophies. Then we have the Nyaya, which includes the logic and philosophy. So first of all, we are going to look at the Vedic period. When we look at the Vedic period, we see it is one of the oldest civilization that developed in India. Although we have the Harappan civilizations which have developed before the Vedic civilization, but when we rely on the literary sources, we have to look from the Vedic period onwards. So in the Vedic period, the literature or the knowledge was there during that time was passed on by the rishis or sages, who were considered to be the provider of knowledge during that period of time. So it was from them the word Veda came, which means to derive knowledge. about anything that includes. So when we talk about Vedas, there are mostly two types of Vedas. It includes the Shrutis and the Smritis, where Shrutis means whatever we hear and Smriti means whatever it is in our memory. From generation to generation, we see that the writing perspective have developed in India from a very later ages. Before that, writing was not very much popular among our Indian people. In India, people they used to memorize their things. So this Shruti and Smriti is actually denomination of that part, where Shruti means to be heard and Smriti means whatever is in our memory. So the writing perspective developed in India with Ved Vyasa when he started writing, when he started memorizing these documents. He believed that if we keep on memorizing, it will not stay in our memory forever. So it is better to write it down, and the writing practice was finally developed by Ved Vyasa. So these are the four Vedas that have developed during the historical period: the Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda. As we can see, these are the integral part of the Vedas. What are the Vedas comprised of? So Rig Veda, it comprised of the mantras which were in metrical forms. Metrical forms mean they are in poetical forms. Then we have Samaveda, which is a collection of mantras that are related to music. Then we have Yajur Veda, which is a collection of prose or mantras. Then you have Atharva Veda, which is kind of a collection of mantras on magic and daily rituals. So after the passing of the Vedic period, the Indian system or Indian knowledge system came and it entered into the classical period, which ranged from 600 BCE to 1200 CE. So during that period, two new religions developed in India. These were Jainism and Buddhism. With the development of these two new religions, the knowledge system also started gaining certain changes in itself. These religions, they promoted non-violence, karma and the path to enlightenment. That means it diverted from the old orthodox religious past, and it provided a different perspective to religion, which later got included in our knowledge system. So during the ancient period, we see that ancient philosophy. Here I would like to say that since I am not a philosophy teacher, it will not be possible for me to explain it to you in a very detailed form. I will just I will just touch the topics. So the Indian philosophy, ancient Indian philosophy, we have 6 types of philosophies that is associated with Indian philosophy. These are Nyaya school, the Vaisheshika school, the Samkhya school, the Yoga school, the Mimamsa school and the Vedanta school. When we talk about the Nyaya school, it focused on the logic. Vaisheshika school, it dealt with the nature of the universe. Similarly, the Sankhya school, it explained the metaphysical aspect of existence. Then the Yoga school, it provided a practical approach to spiritual realization. Mimamsa focused on the ritual agencies, and Vedanta school explores the philosophical interpretations of the Upanishads. Then India entered into the golden age from 320 to 650 CE. This period is actually, if we look at Indian historical perspective, this was the period when the Guptas, they started ruling in India. So this period was known as golden age because it saw development of not only literature, it saw a huge development in terms of art, religion, everywhere. So in this period, we find the basic development in literature by Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta. These were the two important philosophers, important astronomers, important mathematicians who have lived during this period. Their contribution in the form of Aryabhatta and Brahma Gupta Siddhanta were two important documents that have helped a major contribution in the field of mathematics and astronomy. So we get the concept of zero and the decimal system from these two works of Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta. Similarly, in terms of medicine also, the golden age saw the development of two important documents, Charaka Samhita, that was written by Charaka, and Sushruta Samhita, which was written by Sushruta, which was two important texts on medicine and surgery. So with the passing of time, India entered in the medieval period, in which lasted from 650 to 1857 CE. So it was a medieval period, and India saw a certain change in its cultural distinction from this period, because India entered into a period where new literary texts started introducing in the Indian subcontinent. So with the advent of since medieval period is marked with the advent of the Islamic rulers in India, with them the Indian literature also find out certain important changes, like Arabic and Persian literature now got introduced in the Indian subcontinent. Here you can see an example of Al-Biruni's literature, Rihla. Then the medieval period also saw the development of the Bhakti movement, which introduced a new form of worship and devotion, which later got included in the Indian knowledge system. The saints of the Bhakti movement, they teach people about different forms of Bhakti and how to attain God, despite away from the old practice of what we have been doing in the previous or in the preceding years. Next, India entered into the colonial phase from 600 to 1947 with the advent of the British. When the Britishers they entered India, they introduced a new system in the Indian education system, so which brought a change in the Indian knowledge system as well. With the advent of the British, they started the new form of education, the Western education system, the English medium education system, which replaced the old orthodox Indian teachings or the old orthodox education system that was prevalent in India before the coming of the Britishers. So when later with the Indian independence in the year 1947, slowly and steadily the Indian people, they tried to revive the Indian old traditional system. However, they were not successful to a great extent, though certain change has been made by the introduction of tolls and madrasas, but it did not gain that much popularity after the introduction of the English education system. So finally, in my conclusion, I would like to say, just give a brief conclusion here. The Indian knowledge system aims, what was the aim of the Indian knowledge system? So here in the Indian knowledge system, it aims to preserve and promote the India's rich intellectual and cultural heritage, integrating it into modern education and research to address contemporary challenges and promote holistic development. That means today we see that Indian knowledge system, here today we can see it is one of the topic that is highly discussed in today's world. Why? Because people of India, they want to revive their old forms or the old forms of knowledge that has been prevalent in India. Since we are moving fast towards the westernization, so we are forgetting our past. So through this process, the people of India right now, they wanted to start a revolution in the path of knowledge, where they wanted to revive the old system of Indian traditional knowledge system. Thank you so much.